Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and Jed Horton. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here because the ThunderCast is on the loose. Welcome back to another episode of the ThunderCast. With you as always, Russ Livingood, and joined by Jed Horton. Jed, how we doing today?
Hey, doing pretty well, man. I feel like we're kind of getting back into the groove of recording on time, and
Yeah.
now that the seasons are kind of winding down, obviously seasons are winding down for martial athletics, but seasons are actually winding down for kids as well. So as school winds down and all those things, I'm sure you know the schedule starts to open up just a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, and I am counting down the hours, not days, but hours until vacation starts for me. So, hey, we got a lot to talk about. Most of it is about baseball. Tonight, as we record later on tonight, the herd is going to be taking on Louisiana, and we got a lot to discuss about that. But before we get into five things, before we get into around the herd, before we talk about baseball, let's get a little word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com. Jed, like I said, man, we got a lot to talk about, and no better way than to just get right into it. And it's a short time from the last time that we recorded, and I know you're sitting there as the head of ignite.link, and you're saying, Russ, it was only 5 days ago. There's no possible way that we have anything to discuss in kind of the off season for five things. But Jed, I got them for you, and let's just hear about them now. And now, here are at least five things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by ignite.link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. And we got a true five, so let's start with them, and we're going to start with baseball. Micah New ties the Sun Belt Conference baseball record with 6 home runs in 6 games, 6 consecutive games with a homer to tie that.
Hey, what we've been talking about the last few weeks, about how this baseball program is beginning to kind of find its footing a little bit, where we've been losing some close games. Now we're winning close games. Players are warming up, so to speak, and getting better. That's just another kind of notch there that just speaks to how this program has progressed throughout the season. So that's awesome.
And it's a team sport. The entire lineup, especially Steve Cotton, highlighted on Twitter, the bottom of the lineup these last 15 games, the last 5 weeks or so has just been killing it. But Micah New in particular, we've had a lot of close games in those wins, and 6 games in a row, man, that's tough to do. I mean, it's get an extra base hit in 6 games in a row. Some people don't get hits in 6 games in a row, but to get 6 home runs, some of them clutch, he has just been tearing the cover off the ball, and you love to see it at this time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're going to stick with baseball for number 2. Pitcher Griffin Miller named second team All Sun Belt Conference, the lone representative for Marshall baseball. Did you expect that there might have been more?
I would have thought there would have been, especially kind of going into the tournament as the number 4 seed, where we're kind of coming off with some big wins. We're the only team that has, swept Southern Miss, in a series. I kind of thought we'd get a little more love.
Small point of clarification: we didn't sweep Southern Miss. We beat them in the series, but I get what you're saying. We were the only team to do that, and they took on Troy at the end of the year, and that was 2 really, really, really good Sun Belt teams, and they kind of dominated Troy, and they look extremely hot. Coastal looks extremely hot. but Marshall is right there with those two as the hottest teams in the Sun Belt going into the tournament. No one here is claiming that we're on the same level as Coastal and things like that. But as far as like catching fire to go in, I think those three teams are above everybody else.
Right.
Be really good to make some noise. Of course, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but Griffin Miller, want to just say, young guy, local guy to the state, had a dominant performance a couple of times earlier in the year. The only real knock we've seen on him is occasionally a little wild with some wild pitches, hit batsmen, and walks. If we said this earlier in the season, if he can dial that in with his stuff and everything that he's got, we are looking at a really, really good pitcher. And we've got, at least three starters that at any given time they can go out there and perform with just about anybody in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's good to see these accolades. I kind of felt there might be maybe one or two more, but well deserved, and glad they're throwing at least a little bit of love our way.
And I have not gone up and down, to see where any potential snubs may have been and all that. But I do know that the Sun Belt is a really deep conference and deep at a lot of different positions. So, I don't fault us not having more on there. You just would have thought, a quick little eye test that you would say, yeah, I think there could be, two. I think there can be three. Yeah. In the first team, second team, but you could probably make a great case for Coastal, Troy, Southern Miss, all of them to possibly have somebody that their fans are saying, well, they were snubbed, because that's the top three teams in the conference, and it's kind of those three, and then there's a drop off, and then it's everybody else as far as overall records go. So. Again, didn't look at stats for each position. The quick little sniff test would have said, I thought Marshall should have more, but we are big all the way in for Griffin Miller to get his shine, making second team.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3, we have been talking about the men's 4x100 relay team, this entire season, this semester. The women's 4x100 team took advantage of that extra meet that they had at App State over the weekend. They broke a school record of their own. We talked about last week, the men broke it 4 times, I think it was this year, with multiple lineups. Well, the lineup of Lakeisha Smith, Bayandria Hodges, Haley Crum, and Desiree Gee broke a school record that had been around since 2013. A time of 45.02 seconds.
That's a killer time. And that's, we've talked about track and field throughout the season. And when you see records being broken and, personal bests and things like that, I like seeing that, track and field and these type of sports are making the 5 things, because things are getting done. Right. Yeah. So congratulations to those guys, to those gals rather. And that's just, again, another notch, happy to see that, and, ready to see this track program continue to move forward and get better.
I had in my head a number from the last week, the last episode, what the men did when they broke it at the SBC championships in the same event. And I thought that it was there, and I said, I'm going to have to go back and look at my notes. And I went back. I was on it. 40.57 seconds. So you're looking at less than 5 seconds difference between the men and the women. They were flat moving, and that's not a knock on women. You just look at the record books, the men are running faster in these events. And I don't know where this stacks up in conference, but 40.57. I need to go back. 45.02. I was doing the men's for a second, but 45.02. I need to go back and see where that would have ranked at the SBC championships. But it looks like they really took advantage of that extra meet. Number 4, man, I'm going to give you a softball. This is not about softball, but I'm going to load you up where you can tee up a word that I already know is quivering on your lips, but Marshall Athletics getting it done in the classroom. All Marshall sport programs achieve a 3.0. I'm going to say that again. All Marshall athletic programs achieve a 3.0 team GPA for the spring semester, and several set new GPA records. We talked last week about football in spring 2025. There's more. Also, 118 student athletes were named to the president's list. That's 4.0. 118, Jed.
Wow.
118 in spring of 2025 got a 4.0. Well over a quarter of our athletes. 170 were named to the dean's list, and that's a 3.3 or better. Now, I joke on here all the time. I was on the dean's list, but that was like people to expel. And
right.
Wrong list. Don't want to be on that list. But 170 of our student athletes out of the roughly 400 that we have. 3.3 or better, 118 of those got a 4.0. I can tell you, I want to get your reactions here, but then I can tell you about who set what records and stuff like that, because we put the shine on football, but there were 2 others that set semester records.
Yeah, so I'd like to go back and see, who's going to use this word more. Is it me or KD? I feel like I'm starting to catch up to KD on using this word, but differentiator, right? So again, I'm going to beat the same hammer, beat the same nail with the hammer here over and over again. Most of these student athletes go on to have careers in some other field other than the sport that they're playing.
That's right.
And it is important. I would almost argue more important that they do well academically, so that way they can continue their career on, whether it's going into a graduate program or straight into a career after school. And, this is, again, they're there. We kind of miss it at times. They're there to get an education. They're there to learn. And, it's a great reflection on, the university and the student athletes that we're recruiting student athletes to come to our school who are doing well academically and doing well in the sport that they're playing.
Now, here's the deal. The article and the graphic do not match on a couple of things. I'm going with the higher number. I'm erring on the side of caution in the wrong way. I'm going to give our athletes more props. So the article says one thing, and the graphic for the article and that was on social media is slightly different. But here's what it is. Overall GPA 3.37. The article says 3.36. The graphic says 3.37. The graphic says 111 made the president's list. The article said 118. So that's the 2 discrepancies. Either way, it's pretty freaking good.
Right.
And we talked about Marshall football, got the 3.09. Marshall men's soccer. Oh, by the way, about football, they broke the record. Remember, we said we were going to see if we could find it. The record was the fall of 2024. So
really,
they broke it, and then they just broke their own record one semester later. Marshall men's soccer, a record high 3.51. That's crazy good. And, they're performing at pretty high of a level when you make the national championship game,
right.
And you're getting a 3.51. Second highest for the men for them. And also men's golf got a 3.69 for their highest. On the women's side, the highest, Marshall women's golf, 3.95. Somebody's going, who made the B? Because you got to have one B to get that. This is just crazy good. It says for the second straight semester, Marshall football established a new record, finishing the spring 2025 semester with a 3.09 team GPA. It did not say what they got in the fall. I would love to know that. Now, I'm looking here. Another part of this thing, it must have been the social media thing said 118 and the 3.36. The articles does say 3.36, but later in the article it says 111 student athletes. So maybe we should just say it was 111 instead of 118. Two different places say 111. One says 118. Again, either way, what are we talking about here? They're freaking killing it in the classroom.
Right. Yeah. Seven people off. Right. But well over 100. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. 111 or 118 getting a 4.0. I mean, that's still really good.
They're right.
All right, let's finish it up. And this graphic just came out. An announcement just came out. It was either early today, maybe late last night. Can't remember. But the End Zone Pass by the Thunder Trust. Note that we have talked about this on this show before when the announcement came out and they said more details to come. It's the deck on the shoey. And work is underway on that. You know, if you drive by, you'll see some equipment over there. The scoreboard dismantling took place as soon as the spring game was over. So April, that Monday following the spring game, maybe the 14th, they just started tearing everything down, and work is ongoing. The tickets for these are now on sale. As we talked about before, it's $2,500. What does that get you? Well, it gives you access to the Shoey Deck premium seating, and that is the outdoor and indoor standing room where you can just go, talk to your friends, stand around, mingle, do whatever. You can also go down to field level seating below that. There are some, I believe, that you can go over in the very corners of the end zone off of the shoey for some additional seating if you want to do that. You get sideline and field level access. So not just field level for those seats down there, but you can actually go on the sidelines. And you get all you can eat, all you can drink. And I have to say, it's not the stuff that you're going to get at the concessions. There is going to be announced that they are going to have premium food, and it's going to be a lot better. And if anybody from Sodexo is listening, I'm telling the truth. You guys are not putting out 5-course meals. There's going to be some good food there. There's going to be a variety there. And you're going to have access to drinks that are not available elsewhere, anywhere else in the stadium, unless you have a private skybox suite. This also gets you a parking pass. They have announced that it is one pass for every 2 end zone tickets. So if you get 1 ticket, 1 pass, 2 tickets, still 1 pass. You go up to 3 tickets, then you're going to get that second pass. So for every 2 tickets, you're getting 1 pass. Thoughts on this deal and how it maths out for you on the quality of all the perks that you get?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's definitely, it's not a general admission ticket price, but for what you get, right? You get your on-field pass. I assume for every game, right? Is that a sideline pass for every game? You're on field at every game.
Every game.
Unlimited food. Indoor, outdoor, standing room, right? So if it's cold outside, if it's raining, you get to go inside. I assume food and drinks include, probably alcohol, along with any other kind of drink that you want that you don't have to pay in addition to. I think it's a good deal, especially when you consider, what it's for, right? So maybe this is a good time, Russ, if you want to talk a little bit about the Thunder Trust and what the Thunder Trust is for those who don't know. I think most people know what it is and what it does, but explain what the Thunder Trust is and why it's, why this is coming from the Thunder Trust versus, the Big Green, right?
Absolutely. Great point. The Thunder Trust is our NIL initiative, and they have funded this deck. All right, so all these proceeds are going through the Thunder Trust. That's why we said the end zone pass by the Thunder Trust. They are funding this, and they are, Athletes Unlimited. I think, I hope I've got that name correct, but it's the managing team of, the Thunder Trust, and they have multiple schools. But ours here is called the Thunder Trust, but they are a national management team of NIL collectives. Um, our money that goes to this will then be passed on at a percentage, a healthy percentage, to our student athletes. So this money that you are doing gets you all this, but it helps out our athletes. And if you're saying over these past couple of years, man, I really wish we could keep some of our athletes. Some of these schools are poaching them. This could even the playing field quite a bit, in my opinion, that we can start funding more of these, like bringing athletes in and keeping the ones that we really want to keep. I'm not saying it's putting us on par with Ohio State or Michigan or Tennessee or whatever, but I do think this is kind of outside the box and will be the first of its kind in the Sun Belt, and should help quite a bit with our NIL collective.
Yeah, see, that's the big thing is if we're going to be competitive in this, wild west of football and NIL and all these things right now. I still consider it the wild west because there's no, it's running amok right now. But
Yeah.
we still have to try to compete. If we're going to compete at the level that we're wanting to compete at, there's going to have to be a little bit of money involved with that. And this is a great opportunity for you if you've never had access to suite seating. It's that's a little difficult to get into. This gives you this access at an affordable level. You get all the fixins, right? You get the food, the drink, the field access, the seating, the indoor suite. You get access to that for a price that is affordable, but then that money is going almost exclusively, a large part of it anyway, is going to help pay for these players, and that's where we're at. If we want to be competitive, we've got to have figure out some unique ways to raise money and make sure that we have money that we can give our student athletes.
Let's do a little quick math to finish this out, because I think this is a good deal. I think they have really put some effort into finding some perks that makes this worthwhile. It's a good win for our athletes. It's a good win for the Thunder Trust management. It's a good win for Marshall Athletics, and it's a good win for the fans. I think it's a win all the way around. There's going to be some people out there that say $2,500, I can't do it. Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of people that can't do it, but this is not about 50,000 people doing this. You can't put that many people up there. This is about the people that are never going to have a skybox suite, but still want to have a premium thing. And you think, well, that's a lot of money. And it is. $2,500 is a lot, but let's divide it by six home games. 416.67. So just for easy math, $417. And you start thinking about a parking pass. You start thinking about, I don't know how much people are paying to park around the stadium right now, but I see a lot of lots the last couple of years are like $20. I don't know if there's some still 10 or 15, but it seems like they've creeped up a little bit, $20 to $25. Then you've got the food and the drinks. What do you think you would consume during a 3 to 3.5 hour event in food and drinks? And we're not talking about $5 hot dogs here. We're talking about, premium food, good food, premium drinks. I think they were talking about some decent bourbons and spirits and things like that on top of your beers and things like that. And if you don't drink alcohol, they still got all the other stuff there for you. How many $5 waters would you consume during a hot game that you don't have to do if you get this, also in this, you've obviously got a ticket. If your ticket prices are $25 a game, that's 25 out of this 417 right there. Some tickets, and this is a premium ticket, right? If you're paying $25, you're not going to be able to get on that deck, and you're not going to be able to be on the sideline and field level. And then, you've got all the other perks about moving around, like you said, going inside. There's some inside areas and stuff like that. So for those people who can't afford it, small businesses that would get this, and use this as a way. You and I were talking about this before. I'm in sales. I could take some people there as a way to try to close a deal, and have a different person each week. Well, businesses can do that. They can reward their employees, and pick 6 winners each. There's a million different ways you can do this. But there are some individuals out there that say, I will pay $417 a game to have a ticket, to have all I can eat, to have all I can drink, to have a parking spot, and be in this unique area. And I got to tell you, I don't have the numbers of how many people have already done it, but I do know that it is quite a bit have already bought these. I think that, we are going to see that there is probably not going to be a sellout of these this first year by July or anything like that. But I think that if people really want to do this, they should probably jump on it. And it is $2,500. Wow. I mean, I think it's a bargain. Now, I have one more thing. And this is about the Hurd brothers. If you're an alumnus that played football at Marshall, your cost is $1,000. You've already put your blood, sweat, tears on that field, and they want to reward you. Your cost for that is a very affordable $1,000, and you get all the same perks that we listed. So 1,000 divided by 6, $167, $166.67. That is a really good bargain for those. So think of how many Hurd brothers may say, well, I've been spending that per game or whatever. Now they're going to get to go do that instead. So I just think it's a really good deal, and I hope there's a lot of people that take advantage of it. Obviously, this is not going to be affordable for everyone. This is going to be a decision that they have to make. But when you look at the benefits that you get out of it and what it does for Marshall and the athletes at Marshall and the Thunder Trust, so they stick around and help manage our athletes at Marshall, I think it's a win-win-win-win.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I can see, I would be very surprised if it doesn't sell out or come close to selling out. I think that's, you're giving access to, business owner, right? Myself, like I'm not somebody who, believe it or not, I don't have a suite, I don't have a skybox, but, but for someone like me, that's something that piques my interest, right?
And there's a huge waiting list on those skyboxes. How many times have we talked about that there is a vacuum of people that want premium seating that they can't get. But I mean, even if you don't have skybox suite money because your business is not that big yet, this is like mid-level businesses, small businesses, large businesses. They can put this out there as, a write-off. And there is a limit of 1,000 tickets that can be sold. You can't fit more than that in this. So, the capacity is 1,000. But you put that in there, and you're looking at raising a lot of revenue to help our student athletes. And there's going to be a lot of businesses and individuals out there that are going to have some very good premium seating options.
Absolutely. And that's a unique way. The money, again, is it not just going to the university, it's going to the student athletes, to that NIL fund to allow us to recruit and keep, the student athletes. I know, and I'll get off my soapbox here in a second, but, I know that there in the past have been, when NIL was new, there were student athletes just looking to get like their rent covered or getting, what I'm saying? Like it's not NIL money. We're paying a kid $1 million to, come sling a football for us. It's, letting kids, be able to go out to Burger King every once in a while, letting them be able to, buy a pair of new shoes and, go out on the town. It's, this is not, super crazy amounts of money. And, but it goes, but it's necessary, right? It is necessary for kids to come here and be able to retain those players. So that's what that's for. So
Yeah. Well, Jed, that does it for another very informative, good, positive stuff. 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite.link.
that was a great 5 things. I was concerned we had a short turnaround because we're back to our kind of normal schedule.
Just goes to show you, man, there is always something going on in martial athletics, and we are so glad that Ignite.link allows us, through the sponsorship to bring these 5 things to the Herd fans, so they are up to date on all of what's going on at Marshall. We're a kind of an aggregate of here's what you need to know, and we're very appreciative of you and Ignite.link for making that possible.
Well, Russ, what do you say we take it around the herd?
Let's do it.
All right.
And now, Layer 1 Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the herd.
I know we're winding down. We've talked about this for a few weeks now. We're winding down the seasons. We're winding down the sports. So there's around the herd is getting a little bit smaller for this time of year, but there's still some things going on.
Yep.
To discuss. And first of all, we're going to discuss track and field. You alluded to this in the 5 things, but Laura Check. Well, and that's at the last thing. But let's talk about Laura Check and Addison Painter. They're currently ranked within a provisional mark to compete in the first round of the NCAA East preliminaries following the extra meet at App State this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of them had some, I think, set school records. I know Addison Painter did at one point. I think that may have been the one that he had set it 2 weeks in a row or something, but that was early in the season. Fairly certain Laura Check did, but both of them have performed well all year round. They did well in the conference championships, and it's great to see them as of right now, as we record, them being there as provisionaries in that, and hope that they get to compete in those the East Region prelims.
Yeah, that would be great for them, great for the program, and a continuation of their season this year. And then, as you mentioned in the 5 things, that's what I got a little ahead of myself, Russ. But as you mentioned, the women's 4x100 team of Lakeisha Smith, Bayandria Hodges, Haley Crum, and Desiree Gee, they broke the school record from 2013. So.
Yeah, 12-year-old record. This is not like when we've talked about the men breaking some records and there was that long gap in between where they didn't have this is consecutive years, and again, blazing speed at 45.02 seconds. I would love to see, and hopefully I can look that up, what the old record was and how much they beat it by and what they had done throughout the season. I'm going to try to see if I can find that, but I just didn't have the time to look. But yeah, that great thing to App State's credit for hosting that meet to allow this sort of thing. And glad that helped our student athletes. I mean, if they don't do this, these 4 don't etch their name in the record books at Marshall. Maybe they do later, but I mean, right now in this season, no opportunity to do that. So hats off again to App State for that kind of forward thinking, and our crew for saying, yeah, we want in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you can do at the outside of your regular season, like soccer, for example, the men for the last few years have been playing in the spring league, the women this past year, playing, exhibition games and things like that. Anytime you can participate in anything off season, just gives you that much more experience, that much more training, that many more opportunities to do things like break records, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about baseball. Due to our work this season, we've made it to the conference tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended that by ended our regular season by sweeping Georgia Southern, and we're finishing the regular season smoking hot by winning 13 of the final 15 games.
That's right.
That landed them a 4th seed for the SBC tournament.
Yeah, puts them in the double elimination rounds. If you finish, the top 10 teams get to go to the tournament. 6 through 10 have those. I'm sorry, 7 through 10. 7 and 10 and 8 and 9 play each other to see who can go on to the double elimination. But you finish in the top 6 and you're good. Well, we found out with that first victory against Georgia Southern that we had secured a top 6, and we had discussed that here on Friday's show, that we had won that Thursday game. Friday's game, as we recorded, had just started. The first pitch was like during our recording, and they ended up sweeping. Heck of a comeback. I mean, just you think that this team's finally going to cool off. They're finally going to take a loss. And, the bats just said, no, we're good. And we started out that final game, man, which the crowd's really, really good over at the Jack. Hats off to everybody that went over, gave us a great home field advantage. Really good way to go into the tournament. But, they finished 4th. They're facing number 5 seed Louisiana tonight at 8:30. Now, this is going to be posted in the morning. So we're recording this right now at 7:45.
Yeah.
And the game is going to start at 8:30. By the time you listen to this game that we're talking about will have already been over. But just nothing we can do, with recording and all this. We can't record while it's going on and give you these. But as you listen to this, we are really pumped going up against Louisiana. We did not face them this year. Don't know how we're going to match up against them.
Yeah.
I just know that there are a lot of teams that would face anybody else that they could, other than Coastal or Southern Miss, in this tournament if they got to choose, than Marshall University. Because right now, you said it, we are smoking. 13 of the last 15, 6 in a row, maybe. I think we swept Georgia State and Georgia Southern, and that's their 6. Because we did not play Virginia Tech. That game got canceled.
Right.
So, if I'm not mistaken, our last losses were those 2 at Old Dominion that we had. But 13 of 15. The bats in those 10 of those, I think the last 10 games we scored double figures in 9 of them. So, don't know who they're going to throw out on the mound from Louisiana. I just know that it's going to be tough for them to keep up with the herd. Super proud of this team. Can't wait till we record our next show that we can talk about this tournament. I am geared up. I'm going to go over and watch it. All night long. It's bedtime for me. I'm an old man now, but I'm gonna stay up with some toothpicks in my eyes or whatever I can.
There you go. Yeah, keep up.
Watch this game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Russ, that's all we've got for Around the Herd, brought to you by Layer 1 Solutions.
Yeah, thanks again to Layer 1 Solutions. Got to say, too, from the top of the show, we say since day 0, 3 or 4 car wreck, the guys at Leasure Oliver PLLC have been helping us here at the ThunderCast get this show off the ground and grow as it did. Obviously, ignite.link has been here since the early days. Episode 10, 12, something like that. And we've put out a lot of episodes since then. And thanks to Layer 1 Solutions. And all of our sponsors make this show possible. It makes all this stuff free for the fans. So if any of you guys have any need for those businesses, please reach out to us. We can put you in touch with them. You can reach out to Jed. He has 2 of those businesses. And it's pretty easy to find 304carwreck.com. Here's a hint. That's the web address. So, Jed, if you got nothing else, I'm going to take us out of here.
I have no final thoughts, man. That's all I've got for today.
All right. So whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Vet, or whether you see us raising hell in the Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament that starts at 8:30 tonight against Louisiana, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd. It's the ThunderCast, and we'll see you later.